Hi, so for this video, as mentioned, we are looking at the diagram drawing part. So I would like you to take a pencil or pen, follow me with the diagram drawing part with what we have analyzed earlier on. Okay, so this is actually because over here previously we mentioned about they are able to produce high skilled labor intensive goods. So if you think about the PPF that you are drawing, you need to have one of it to be your high skilled labor intensive products. Okay, so high skilled labor intensive goods. So which means that the opposite will be low skill labor intensive goods. Okay, so I think some of you know that when you are drawing the PPF part and this is your PPF diagram, the point, the label over here is dependent on the question and your essay response. So there are other ways to phrase it. So it could be capital goods, it could be consumer goods. If there is a question about increase in capital inflow or increase in FDI or investment and how it affect our economy, then you can say that there will be an increase in the amount of capital goods that we have in the economy being able to produce on that. Okay, but I just want to highlight that before we look at the answer, this particular label of your PPF, actually all it depends on is your question. Okay, it really depends on the question. Read carefully, do not memorize it. Okay. Then we look at the PPF as shown in the suggested answer scheme. Let me redraw this again. There are actually a shift in the PPF from PPF not, and in this case, okay, I want to redraw this to be a bit flatter. PPF 1. Okay, so by showing that the PPF shifted upwards and then the country actually gained. So this is the theoretical explanation that you gave over here. The country gained the CA in the production of high-skilled workers. Therefore, your PPF shifted upwards with a higher increase in the amount of high-skilled labor-intensive goods that you are producing. Okay, so I am going to do something that is different or an extension, because over here this diagram is very good to actually highlight this point. Okay, let me use is to highlight that being able to produce high-skilled intensive products at a lower opportunity cost. At a lower opportunity cost, highlighting that it means that sacrificing less of other goods to produce. So let us just use this diagram as a way and look at it in a more systematic manner. So high skill labor intensive, let us just see that Q0 to Q1, this is actually the amount of goods that if you want to produce more of high skilled labor intensive products, let us see before a change in factor endowment. Okay, before a change in factor endowment. This is a bit complicated, but the good thing is it is a video. You can re-look at it. So Q0 to Q1, assuming that previously for them to produce high-skilled labor-intensive product, let us look at the opportunity cost incurred if previously to produce Q0 to Q1 unit. So at PPF not, what would be the amount of goods that they sacrifice when they are producing it? Okay, so this is where strategically I just want to show that at the end of it, I'm able to show that there is actually a decrease, okay, a decrease in OC after the change in the factor endowment. But let us look at the step by step. So to produce Q0, Q1 unit of high skilled goods, okay, short form, but in actual exam, please write out the country actually sacrifice Q2, Q3, Q2, Q3 units of low skilled labor intensive goods. Okay, so this is a case that I am looking at before a change in the factor endowment on the PPF not, on PPF not, the original PPF, the amount of quantity that is being sacrificed to produce Q0 to Q1 unit. Okay, so this is actually your fixed factor because we just want to see that there is a change. Purpose of this analysis is to see that there is a change in the amount of opportunity cost incurred. Okay, so as you can see, I'm squeezing everything towards the right side. Then we want to look at after. Okay, let me change my color. Okay, so after we are looking at PPF. So at PPF 1, so as mentioned, this is actually your stable to produce Q0, Q1 units of high skilled labor intensive goods. Okay, let us look at the opportunity cost incurred. So at Q0 on the new PPF, this is actually Q4. And then similarly, at the Q1 unit of labor intensive, high skilled labor intensive product, this will then be Q5. So over here, I just want to show to the assessor that this is actually smaller than this. Okay, let me emphasize this in the writing. To produce Q0, Q1 unit of high skilled labor intensive products, the country sacrifice lesser units of low skilled labor intensive goods from Q2, Q3 to Q4, Q5 as shown in figure 1. Okay, then in your answer, go back to figure 1, a change in PPF due to change in factor endowment. Okay, so this is actually the technical explanation of using the diagram, and then because the keyword over here is able to produce, so let me put it in red color, able to produce the high-skilled labor-intensive product at a lower opportunity cost. So this is the change due to the change in factor endowment. This is actually the effect. And then to show the effect, we use the diagram, and I think the diagram you are able to see that PPF shifted outwards. However, if you have gone a step to explain the before and after to clearly illustrate that the change they are using due to the factor endowment changes, the economy, the country is actually using lesser or not using, sacrificing lesser of other goods produced, other goods to produce this particular high-skilled labor-intensive goods. Okay, so this is the end of it. I think if you don't understand, you can actually repeat the video a little bit to see the explanation to show before and after, and on the diagram being able to illustrate that there is indeed, with a new PPF, there is a fall in the amount of low-skilled labor-intensive goods being sacrificed to produce the same amount of the high-skilled labor-intensive goods. All right, that's all.